Did Alabama's championship hopes just go up in smoke? Welcome to Beat Everyone. I'm Ben Flanagan with AL.com. The NFL draft is just around the corner. What could that mean for Kalen DeBoer? High stakes there for him. We've got a mock draft to break down from AL.com, and some Alabama legends are on the move this offseason. But most important Alabama sports thing in front of us right now, March Madness is here. Alabama plays Hofstra in Tampa in the opening round on Friday afternoon. They looked like a 3 seed before they lost to a really bad Ole Miss team, and now they're a 4 seed. And they're on Michigan's side of the regional bracket, so it's a tough out either way. But if they proved anything, they can beat everybody if they're playing well. And if they didn't already seem like an uphill battle for the Final Four, they're missing their second best player after Aden Holloway was arrested for possession of a lot of marijuana, we'll say. I need help sorting all this out. Joining me now is a guy who loves sports. He's probably already filled out about 16 brackets, I would guess. It's AL.com's Andrew Hammond. Andrew, welcome.
Happy to be here, and I must say I don't know what a lot of marijuana consists of, but I'm not an expert in that area. And no, I only fill out one bracket. That's my rule. It's one. You just fill
Okay.
out one. It's like a zombie apocalypse team. You need to know what the rules are. You fill out one. I can't trust anybody who fills out multiple.
This isn't Nam. There are rules, right?
There
Andrew,
you go.
well, with a lot of marijuana, I think like when the word pound enters the equation, pounds plural enters the
Yeah,
equation, I think that's a lot. But like you,
that
I'm no
is.
expert.
Yeah, I'm no expert, but, it's like, I know it when I see it, and it's a lot.
Uh, so Alabama plays at 2:15 on Friday afternoon on True TV. Andrew, that this is that time of year when people can't remember if True TV is part of their cable package or not. So to you, I wish you a happy. Oh yeah, we have to find True TV Day. How do you celebrate this occasion?
I appreciate True TV because they figured it out after about, oh gosh, 10 years, 10, 15 years of, oh, maybe we can, outside of the 3 weeks of March, we can put other things on True TV that are sports. Like, they do NBA and NHL alternate networks
Mm.
for some reason. I don't know why, because randomly you could be watching TV, and then, like, last year when TNT still had the NBA, you're flipping through the channels and you're like, "Oh, okay, I'll watch the Lakers and the Bulls." And then you realize, "Why is this on True TV?" So I respect True TV for making people, aware of their channel. It's just not, 16 episodes of Impractical Jokers.
I was going to say it's like the ridiculousness on MTV marathons that you would get. Otherwise, the other 22 hours are Impractical Jokers marathons,
Rob
of
Deerdeck
course.
will pay for his crimes.
Truly, I said it earlier. Aden Holloway got arrested. Andrew charged with felony marijuana possession, suspended by Alabama. Andrew Holloway averages 17 points per game. He's Alabama's second leading scorer. He's obviously an important player. How big a loss is this for them?
Huge. To me, it's one of those. I think a lot of teams entering this tournament, even the favorites, are dealing with some type of injury, and that's just the nature of college basketball. Either it's an injury, or a player's been out for a long time, or a team hasn't been as smooth as they've been in the last few weeks. So, it, even after the SEC tournament, losing to an Ole Miss team that was on a heater, sometimes you're just like, hey, that the game is the game. I think for Alabama on Sunday, when I'm filling out, I'm doing my regional previews, and I'm just like, I think this breaks for Alabama. Like, the bracket will break in your direction. Tom Izzo is very notorious for having his region kind of break in his way, and to a lesser extent, Nate Oats has kind of benefited from some of that luck as well. And so you're thinking to yourself, you can probably repeat 2024 when they went to the Final Four, and then all of a sudden, the next day, the Aden Holloway news comes out, and you're just like, oh, not only does that probably not happen? You all of the sudden you had to leg up on a team like a Texas Tech who is without JT Toppin. You have Michigan who has Yaxel Lindeborg, which he should be okay by the time you were to play. If you advance to play Michigan, he's probably going to be okay. But at the same time, that Michigan team has been shaky the last week and change. So you might catch them on a good day. Now you're kind of sort of playing behind the eight ball, and you know I've seen a lot of, I won't say I've seen a lot, but I've seen a few people pick Hofstra as like a trendy, lower seed upset. I'm not in that camp, but I think beyond that, everything is kind of either 50-50 or you're looking at yourself as the underdog, probably, if you were to advance every game you play up until maybe a Final Four, unless the bracket breaks your way again.
Yeah, it's tough. I think Holloway's really important. I think it's fair for people to label him a defensive liability at times. He's been out on crucial possessions during crunch time in some closer Alabama games. But when it comes to March and how close these games get and how clutch you need your players to be, Aden Holloway is somebody who can get you a bucket. He's one of
Yep.
two guys on the team who can truly create his own shot next to LeBaron Philon, obviously, and it obviously puts a lot of pressure on Philon just to be that guy even more than he already has been. But Holloway, he can create space, he can shoot, he can finish at the rim. He's a playmaker. He obviously he's their second leading scorer. So this is a big loss for Alabama. They have gone stretches this year due to injury, many injuries throughout the season, and Holloway was one of them. And so they have played without him. So I don't think that chemistry is necessarily an issue, but I
Right.
do think you want a guy who averages 17 points per game out
Yeah,
there.
and it's gonna be one of those things where, like, for teams to make the Final Four and teams to make a deep run in the tournament, it takes 4 games to go to a Final Four. It takes 6 to win it, and in those first 4, you're gonna need contributions from your your 1 and your 2 guys are gonna be there, but what about the 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 options that you have? So, all of a sudden, players have to step up, and will they be ready? Possibly. I mean, they're college basketball players this time of year. They should be ready. But at the same time, you can never guarantee that over a 4-game stretch to get to a Final Four and then 6 to win it.
Well, I mean, look, Alabama's coming off of an Elite Eight run last year. The likelihood of doing that again seemed really low when LeBaron Philon declared for the NBA, but then he decided to come back. He's a third-team All-American, first-team All-SEC. Tremendous year for him. He's just a fantastic player, a highlight reel waiting to happen. But again, the pressure's on now. Somebody else is going to have to step up. Alabama's been really talented all year, but they've had a lower ceiling than these Elite Eight and Final Four teams from the Nate Oats era, but also the understanding that when they get hot, they really can beat anybody. It can happen. They're
Yeah.
that talented. Andrew, can Alabama make a deep run here? Like, do you see the Holloway arrest sort of trickling down and ending their march a little prematurely? In other words, where do you have Alabama finishing on your lone bracket that you fill out?
Oof. Uh, so I will say Sunday night, I had regional Final Four.
Wow.
Now I've got, I think they go out second round. I think a matchup with a team like Texas Tech that, who doesn't have their best player. Like JT Toppin's not there. And so I think that you match those two teams up and you just have them play on the court. I think Texas Tech is slightly better, but at the same time, Texas Tech is also getting that trendy upset pick because Akron, a very good basketball team, winners of the MAC, they could easily get rid of Texas Tech. So I think that's the beauty of March, where it's one game, it's not a series, it's not a 2-leg event. So I think that given the Holloway news and given the fact that Texas Tech and Alabama are even in some ways, I give Texas Tech a slight edge. I think they've played more I would say team defense. I think that's what's going to come down to in that game is who can get the critical possessions. Very talented roster. I mean, we know SEC basketball stuff, but Big 12 is. I mean, the fact that Texas Tech is a 5 seed, even without their best player, I think goes to show that they're a quality ball club, and I'm super excited about that game, but also know at the same time that those two could both be out in the first round. So, but I have Tech over Alabama by maybe a shot, maybe a couple of points. So, it'll be fun to watch for sure.
Let's see Alabama get past Hofstra, Speedy Claxton, and the Hofstra pride. I mean, it's going to be tricky, considering their style of play. I mean, I've been yapping about it all year that as good as Alabama can be, when they run into teams with elite front courts, they're going to
Mhm.
struggle and probably lose, especially at this level. Again, can is one thing, but will
Yeah.
they? I don't know. But when they played Purdue, they played Arizona, when they played Gonzaga, when they played some of these SEC teams, including my pick to win it all, Florida, to go back to back. When
Mm.
they run into these teams, they just struggle. They'll get out
Yeah.
rebounded by teams that aren't even that much bigger than them. They just struggle on the glass. And so,
Yeah.
unless Aiden Sherrill just has like a change of heart, unless Keaton Bristow is suddenly healthy, which he's not going to be and playing this, like Alabama's going to struggle rebounding. I mean, a guard like Houston Millett can't get all the rebounds for you guys, no matter how hard he hustles. So we'll see, man. I guess that brings me to my last question on this. Are you willing to reveal who you've got going all the way here, Andrew? If it's not,
Yeah, it's
Bama?
fine. I used to be very like I don't say guarded, but I was just like, oh no, but we're on a spinning rock. Like it's a spinning rock with light as basically a microwave. It's fine. It's not going to be the end of the world. My final four is Arkansas, Michigan, Houston, and St. John's. I've
Wow.
got Houston winning it all. I think it's look if you're the number one overall seed and you get that region with a lot of bad, like Duke is number one overall seed in the East, and there's a bad matchup for them in that Sweet 16 against a very very talented. I would say if Nate Oats wants to complain about the seed that he got, ask Rick Pitino. Getting a 5 seed, which they're probably at best a 3 or a 2. I had them as I want to say a 3 the night before Selection Sunday, and I was just like, oh, okay then. It's gonna be one of those tournaments, and yeah, Arkansas. I really I don't trust Arizona. I've been burned too many times, and I think that they have a tricky matchup in the second round against uh, Utah State potentially. So that's a really rough matchup for them. And I think Arkansas is just playing really, really good ball right now. So those are my four. I've got Houston over Michigan in the title game, and Kelvin Sampson finally wins it all.
Good call. And he's obviously, if they get this matchup, he's going to want blood against Florida if and when they get their opportunity to play again. My Final Four, it's arbitrary, but I've got Florida, UConn, Purdue, Michigan. I've got Florida beating Purdue. I'm sorry, Florida beating Michigan in the finals. So
Okay.
kind of chalky, a little chalky
Yeah.
there. But like my thing with Florida is show me, like, I know Vandy just did it, but like show me at
Mm,
this level that you can beat them in the tournament. And like in Alabama's case, like last year, I had Alabama going as far as they could go until they ran into Florida because of how bad a
right.
matchup they have been. I just think they're good. They're solid all the way around. They've got everything that you want, and they're the defending champs. It's obviously rare, and this doesn't have anything to do with it. But Florida did it before under Billy
Yeah.
Donovan. Different eras, to say the least, but we've seen it happen. UConn, obviously, another team that has managed to do it. So I say Florida, Andrew. I think it's
Okay.
gonna happen. All right.
I really like Florida. I think them matching with Houston and how close that game was last year,
Yeah.
I wonder if Florida has the enough difference makers this time. I think Walter Clayton Jr. was on a absolute just he was rolling last year, but you couldn't stop him. But he's not there this year, and that's what makes that regional final, if those two teams match up, is going to be so much fun. Like I just want to just sit me down in front of a TV, give me some popcorn, a nice drink, and let's roll.
Well, shifting gears here, Andrew, still focused on Alabama basketball. Our
Sure.
colleague, AL.com columnist Joe Goodman, a guy who makes people feel feelings, let's say, he put it
Really?
plainly. You familiar? Uh,
Yeah, I know.
He put it plainly in a headline this week, quote, "Fire Alabama basketball coach Nate Oats," end quote. He writes, and bear with me here, quote, "Is anyone ever going to hold this guy accountable other than me? Alabama basketball is the incubator for first-round picks and runs to the Final Four, but also some high-profile criminal charges, and now on the eve of the NCAA tournament, a point guard on the radar of Tuscaloosa's narco cops. What in the world is going on at Alabama? Same as usual." Joe later writes, "Whether Holloway has a drug problem or just legal problems about drugs remains unclear. Oates is the real problem, though. Under his leadership, the Tuscaloosa cops feel the need to treat Alabama's basketball team like it's some kind of crime syndicate." End quote. Andrew, so that's how Joe feels, right? What about you? We know Oates. We know his basketball credentials. He's one of the best coaches in college basketball. A couple of Elite Eights, only Final Four appearance in Alabama history, SEC titles. He's turned Alabama into a national contender annually. But on the other side of the coin, under Oates, Alabama fans are about to learn the name of their fourth or fifth local judge in Tuscaloosa. Andrew, do you sense any troubling pattern here in the sense that Oates might not have the type of control over a program that someone in his position should?
Uh, I love Joe. Joe will find a way. The one thing I love about Joe is I can wake up in the morning, see a Goodman column, and I go, "Oh, we're doing that today." I I think that while the issues are obviously a red flag, um, I don't think it's at the point where we need to talk about institutional control
Mhm.
or any type of control within the program. I think that, knuckleheads are going to be knuckleheads. Like, let's just put it like that. And not every program is going to have, the teetotaling, Boy Scouts. But at the same time, I think you also have to be aware of the fact that, yeah, when these issues arise and sometimes you got to really nip these things in the bud, and maybe some things that you want to be relaxed about, you've got to really nail down and kind of I hate saying, kind of being the bad guy, but maybe the laxed attitude that you have needs to be chilled. I mean, needs to be, I guess, tamp down a bit, maybe be a bit more stricter. But I don't think that there's a problem. I think just guys are just being knuckleheads, and yeah, somebody getting caught with what just over 2 pounds of marijuana, not good, not good.
Well, he said he's
And
gonna
really,
smoke it, though. He said he's just gonna smoke it,
I
Andrew.
mean, look, maybe this is not the place to talk about that, but hey, uh, but I think that we have to also look at the fact that yeah, this I won't say it's not fresh off of Brandon Miller, but
Okay.
for the casual fan and the casual reader and listener, it's like, oh, didn't this happen? And yeah, it's things are stacking up. I wouldn't say that it's like a major issue or a
Well,
major, thing, but I think that I'd hope that Nate Oats over this offseason takes a look at the program and really, makes a point of how do I want this program to look? What's the vision I want to give off, with this program? And yeah, you want to let the guys be themselves, but at the same time, if it's at the detriment of your team and your roster at a pivotal point in the season, then yeah, it's an issue. So
yeah.
while I understand what Joe's saying, maybe we can give Oates a little more, let him sort that out. I would say that if this if this becomes an occurrence sooner rather than later, then yeah, we probably need to have a discussion on that.
For sure. Great perspective, Andrew. And we're also still in wait and see mode when it comes to Aden
Sure.
Holloway, right? He's going to have his day in court. We'll see how it all plays out. All right, Andrew, let's shift from basketball. Let's shift from basketball to football. The NFL draft begins April 23rd. So under Nick Saban, this was a cherry on top of the previous Alabama football seasons. And
Sure.
he and the program would just add another feather to their cap, however many first rounders or total picks they had each draft. And, while we may not see as many players picked this year, there was a really important development for Kalen DeBoer, I think, and it's the stock of his most recent starting quarterback going sky high lately.
Yeah.
After a really strong NFL combine, Ty Simpson is starting to look and sound like a lock as a first round pick. I mean, Mel Kiper Jr. over at ESPN, he's got him 16th overall in his latest mock draft, going to the New York Jets. So everybody, please pray for Ty Simpson if that's the case and ends up on the Jets. But Andrew, you're right, the AL.com mock draft. So, which is obviously way more important here. Where do you
Yeah, obviously.
where do you have Ty Simpson going in about a month?
I have Ty Simpson going in the first round to the Pittsburgh Steelers in the second version of our mock draft. I was tempted on sending Ty Simpson down to Miami because
Mm,
Miami picked up a second first round pick via a trade earlier this week. But I just feel that Pittsburgh is the right fit for him. I think Pittsburgh, ironically, is in the same situation that Green Bay was in when Aaron Rodgers arrived, where you have a guy who's on his way out. Aaron Rodgers, all signs are leaning towards Aaron Rodgers staying in Pittsburgh, working with Mike McCarthy one more year. I think they feel they have another deep playoff run in them. But at the same time, you also have to focus on the future. And I think for Pittsburgh, who has been in this situation before with Ben Roethlisberger about 6, 7 years ago, I think you need to start looking towards that way. And I think that getting Ty Simpson, which, let's be honest, this year's quarterback class, it ain't great. But I think while a lot of people are looking towards next year, I think one reason why I think the Jets and the Dolphins pass next year until next year is, I think for Pittsburgh they can't wait. They can't wait, and if they want to at least secure the future now and, hope he grows into a starting role, and really, if anything, he probably wouldn't play at all this year. I think you give him time to sit, give him time to learn, and Mike McCarthy, say what you want about the guy, but he wins, and say what you want about Aaron Rodgers, but he may be one of the smartest quarterbacks in NFL history. On the field, off the field, I'm not sure. But I think that if you give him a chance to sit under that learning tree for a couple of years, he turns out to be uh, a decent All Pro, a couple of Pro Bowls. I mean, and he's also with the franchise. Kuiper's got him going 16 to the Jets. Not saying that the Jets are a poorly run franchise, but look at the quarterbacks that they've had since 1975. It's not great. It's Joe Namath and insert quarterback. But I think with Pittsburgh, they've kind of proved that they're one of those, even despite their struggles the last decade, they are a recession proof franchise. They aren't going to hit a point where we're seeing them at the bottom of the AFC. It's rare that you have the Steelers picking early in the draft. Like, this is where this spot, like in the 20s and below, is where you see Pittsburgh. So I think you have a chance to go get your quarterback. And if you do go get your quarterback, you put him in a position to learn the offense, and in 2 or 3 years, he can take the reins and be ready.
Yeah, for sure. And look, the Pittsburgh last time they took a quarterback fairly early was what, Kenny Pickett out of Pittsburgh. It obviously didn't work out, but it's a different era in Pittsburgh now with respect to
Mhm.
everything that Mike Tomlin did. Obviously, like he had good quarterbacks that flourished. They go to the
Sure.
playoff, never had a losing season. But Mike McCarthy's different in the sense that he's had success also with quarterbacks, developing them. Like you said, he wins. So it would be a much better situation if Ty Simpson was in Pittsburgh compared to New York or compared to
Yeah.
Cleveland, even who will probably be drafting the
Oof.
quarterback.
Which
So
Cleveland's a fascinating spot for Ty Simpson to be completely honest, because they need a quarterback, but the problem is they drafted 2 last year, and they have one who's got maybe the worst contract in the history of American sports, and it's like, we can't really get rid of this guy, so,
yeah,
like, they're literally putting Deshaun Watson out there because it's like, "Hey, it's either we release you and we have a bunch of dead money on the table, or we can at least put you out there and whatever happens, happens." We feel better eating the money, putting you out there, than just eating the money and letting you walk. So, yeah, gosh, the perks of being a quarterback in the NFL, I guess.
the Rodgers component is really interesting, Andrew, because we all know what happened in Green Bay. The optics
Mhm.
weren't great when they drafted Jordan Love. It obviously paralleled when Rodgers was drafted and Brett Favre was there. There was obviously tension. You have to think though that Rodgers knows where he is in his career. This is probably the swan song. So I'm
Yeah.
guessing he has a different perspective and point of view when it comes to drafting a new quarterback coming in and maybe being a little bit more supportive than he has in the past.
Yeah, oh, for sure, because I think that we look at what happened with Rodgers in Green Bay when they drafted Jordan Love. That was the front office signifying to Aaron Rodgers, "Hey, bud, it's been real." Um, and, they went through their whole spat, and I think that Rodgers realizes, after an Achilles injury, struggles, all the things, if he can just be in a spot where I know what it's like being the veteran quarterback when a young guy comes in, but also, even with the issues that Rodgers and Green Bay had, he was still there for Jordan Love and really helped him along. So I think that we put a guy like Ty Simpson in there who, Ty's no dummy. He knows the game. He's a very smart quarterback, and he would be really, really good for that room. And so if we put, yeah, if Aaron Rodgers is here another year, 2 years, and then by year 3, we can truly prepare Ty Simpson. Not saying that he, I'm not trying to compare the quarterbacks, but I'm comparing the situations. You look at Patrick Mahomes. He was drafted. Alex Smith obviously knew that, hey, this guy's going to be taking over. Let me prepare him as best as we can for when that happens. And so it's the perfect time to do it if you're Pittsburgh. It's the best situation possible for Ty Simpson. I do think that there's a shot that if the Dolphins want to pick him at the end of the second round or in the first round, sure, I get it. The problem is just pay Malik Willis 66 million for 3 years. So, uh look, sometimes in the NFL, I don't think money's real, so this might be another this might be another instance where that shows up.
Andrew, last thing on Simpson, you watched the Alabama season in 2025 very closely, watched Simpson very closely. We saw his trajectory that for the first half of the season, he looked like a Heisman frontrunner. He looked like a world beater, the best quarterback in the country. And then obviously we've learned since that he was battling injuries. We know that Alabama had no balance with a running game. Their offensive line was super inconsistent. And now and so a lot of people's opinions changed on Ty Simpson, but now we're seeing these very well-known analysts, former quarterbacks, Dan Orlovsky, Chase Daniel, Todd McShay, who's been pretty consistently high on him. They're heaping praise on
Yeah.
Simpson, and it was right before the combine. And since then, they consider him the easy QB2 of this
Yeah.
draft. And Orlovsky has even said that there are things about Simpson he prefers to the presumptive number one overall pick, Fernando Mendoza. Are you surprised at all as somebody who watched Ty Simpson all season? Like I said, very closely every snap. Are you surprised
Uh,
that his stock has risen to this point?
no, not at all. I think that if you were to, if you were to end the season in October, Ty Simpson's your Heisman winner. And it might not even be close. Like he was the guy. I think the problem that he ran into was, as you said, it was inconsistency on the offensive line. It was injuries. I mean, the first Oklahoma game, they just beat him to, they just beat up on him. And it was just like, oh wow. Um, while I appreciate Dan Orlovsky going to bat for Ty Simpson, I think that Fernando Mendoza, while in small, I would say smaller sample sizes, had just some absolute insane games and showed that, yeah, he's the type of person that needs to probably be in Oakland. But yeah, it's crazy how a guy like Ty Simpson, who is by all estimations going to be QB2, where I I wonder what teams are gonna be. Yeah, maybe there's a team we aren't talking about that may be looking towards Ty Simpson. I can't think of who that would be, but at the same time, if obviously had a great combine and you hear all these experts and all these draft folks and these GMs are paying attention to what these guys are saying. So clearly somebody in the NFL is going to want to take a flyer on this kid and I'm super interested in seeing how it goes. But yeah, I think that you know the praise that Ty Simpson has gotten and all these different things, it doesn't shock me because like I said, he was probably going to be QB1 if not for, that mid-season rut and Fernando Mendoza just bringing it up to another level.
Yeah, for sure. And I mentioned Kalen DeBoer before. I mean, I think this is huge for him if he has a first round quarterback drafted that does wonders for recruiting. He and
Yeah,
Ryan Grubb, they deserve a lot of credit for the development of Ty Simpson, who was a backup before they got there. So, and when they got there,
yeah,
frankly. So, what would be really interesting. All right, Andrew, we'll get you out of here on this. One last NFL thing. We're seeing some offseason moves involving Alabama players, former Alabama players. The latest is Miami Dolphins, whom you've mentioned many times here, shedding a lot of contracts on their roster, trading Jalen Waddle to the Denver Broncos. He was a trade piece last season and it never happened. And like I mentioned, they're shedding these contracts. They released Tua Tagovailoa. They're in full rebuild mode, it seems, and why they might be looking for a quarterback in the draft. But Andrew, what do you think of this move for Waddle specifically? Denver, I mean, they were a Bo Nix freak injury away from going to the Super Bowl this past
yeah,
season. If he's healthy, it seems like he has a new number one receiver in Waddle.
yeah. The first thing I think of is, oh wow, Denver really wants to stay atop the AFC. And which obviously, it's easy to say that, but it's harder to be about that action. And I think Denver is, and I think Denver realizes, oh, we have a window. And I think everybody in the AFC West, I mean, the AFC West to me has always been, it hasn't been like the most star studded division in the last couple of years, but I think they've been the best quality division up and down. And when the Raiders were as bad as they still had decent talent. Max Crosby, obviously, and so I think this really signifies that Denver is, even with the Bo Nix injury, they're going all in. They are trying to cash in as much as they can on this window, and I'm excited to see how it goes. And yeah, Miami's definitely realizing, we need to tear this down. I'll be interested in seeing how long that tear down is. I think it's going to be a race between them and the Jets in terms of, okay, we're both going to tear this thing down. Who's going to at least reach the playoffs first? I would say Miami, given previous history. No offense to any Jets fans listening, but
No, they
we've
know.
seen we've seen your movies, New York. But yeah, I think that for Miami, it's a spot for them where they can truly get an identity, and I think that's the problem with a lot of teams in the NFL is the teams that are sitting and drafting as high as they are, they don't lack an identity, and I think Miami gets a chance to sit back, figure out what they want to be, and move forward.
Great point. I'm interested in it just because Jalen Waddle, to me, pound for pound, is one of the best players I ever watched, especially during the Saban era. I wish that
Sure,
we had seen him reach his full potential. He faced some injuries. He was behind in the depth chart with like that sick list of receivers like Jerry Jeudy and Devontae Smith and all those guys. But Waddle, man, what a fun player to watch,
for
even
sure.
in the NFL. All right, well, he's Andrew Hammond. You got to go check out the rest of his NFL mock draft. Read the rest of his work on AL.com. Andrew, thanks for doing this, man. You got to come back soon.
Absolutely, man. I had a blast. Appreciate it, Ben.
All right, we'll be back next week. I'm Ben Flanagan. Thanks, everybody.